Hello, just want to do a quick update video on the controller, the status of that. You can see that it's got the cover off. Probably looks like it's got some more holes in it. It's been a while since I did an update, so thought I'd do that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the controller box, modifications I've done so far to date, as well as some other things. I've got some unboxings of updates. Thought it'd be a good reason to do an update video. Got some more stuff today. So here's the control panel. Control box, current status. Made some changes. I moved the switch around to this side. This is the primary power switch, off and on master power switch. It's wired in. Hotline comes in one side, and here we go. Hotline comes in one side. I've also got a neutral connected so that the light comes on when the power is applied. So the power comes in on one side. You can see this hole right here, currently serving a handy purpose of being able to maneuver wires, but I'll have either a screen or a louver or something put over here to cover that up for air intake, so cool air can come in here. And I've added a similar hole on the top with a fan, cooling fan. So now I've got a good airflow. We'll be able to come through the box. I've tested it. I have yet to actually have the power supply kick on. There's a cooling fan for the power supply itself that's supposed to kick on, temperature dependent. I haven't even seen that thing kick on yet. None of this has gotten warm to the touch. Haven't run it very hard, but that's the current status on that. This little fixture right here is actually housing a 12 volt power supply board I scavenged out of a thin client, an old thin client that I had laying around. Makes a perfect power supply, 110 in, 12 volt. I forget how many watts of power coming out the top, but plenty to run the cooling fan on the top. And then I've also got a 12 volt pigtail comes out, kind of a pigtail deal. It's a buck converter that goes 12 volts to 5 volts clean, that will run the Raspberry Pi screen and all that. Does a good job with that. So I've got 12 volts out for it. And this system here basically runs off the main switch. So main switch will come in, it will make the Pi and the cooling fan turn on, and is independent of the other part, which is one of the updates. I got buttons in. So the screen goes here. Touch screen. I have a keyboard that I use these little command Velcro strips to attach to the board. Also makes it removable. But I've got this master e-stop button here installed. That is where the power supply actually runs. So the power supply for the motors, motor drivers, actually runs through the e-stop. So if I hit the e-stop, not only does the garble controller get a signal of e-stop, but it also actually kills the power to the controls, or to the controllers, so it shuts everything down. But except for the Pi, because I don't want to crash it and ruin the SD card. The red button here will also provide e-stop function for the controller, the garble controller, but it doesn't actually kill power to the motors or anything. So if I see something going on, I can hit the button, see if it stops. If it doesn't stop, kill everything. Kills all the power to the motors and everything. The other one is a pause button. That's how that's going to be wired in. And then this is the start cycle or resume button. These are actually illuminated buttons. I have not decided how I want to wire those in, but I've got them all installed. The board I had, because of where this mounts, is going to mount right there. These switch depths were enough that I didn't really have comfortable amount of clearance over the Z-axis controller, so I relocated it down here. Should be completely fine, shouldn't have any issues, but it provides much more clearance right over where these buttons are going to sit. I've also started running some of the wiring down. These are the main power mains into the controllers, and then I've got lots of room here for what will be the I/O panel or input output panel, where all of the, let's see here, all of the controller cables will come up for the motors. We'll plug in. Boop, boop, boop. I got 3 of those. And then part of the update is I've got switches coming for, sorry, not switches, plugs, receptacles coming for the limit switches. I've got a bunch of stuff coming via Amazon. Let's see. So that's pretty much it for the control box. One of the other things is on that, for as far as I/O is concerned, input outputs, I did finally mount, and I need to clean it up, but the Z-axis limit switch. If I found a place, decided, came to a decision on where I wanted to mount that one. So got that mounted, finally got these little screws. These micro switches, they take a 256 size screw. A little bitty guy. I didn't have any, couldn't find any locally, had to order them, had to order some other stuff. So that's one of the reasons for the delay and updates, is all the stuff I'm basically waiting. Drilled and tapped 440 little screws on this right here. Took a piece of 1/8 inch aluminum flat stock, cut this out, shaped it so as this little arm comes up, and it is adjustable. You can see the gaps there. I can adjust how far up or down this goes. Give it some clearance off of the switch, but as it comes up, that little arm will engage the edge of this, so it tells it it's hit the Z upper limit. One of the other things I've been testing was Backlash. I think I talked about this previously, but this thing, the ball screws have got a lot more backlash in them than I was expecting and I'm comfortable with, and it's causing some problems in the milling. But the Y-axis you can see down under there, but we've talked about the X-axis quite a bit with these ball screws and the ball nut. They've got, if you're not familiar with those, this shaft here, the ball screw, they call them ball screw and a ball nut because the shaft here has these little grooves that are precise diameter, and there's actually a set of recirculating steel balls that ride in this tube and go in one side of this bearing, and as this screw turns, they rotate and provide a substantially higher rate of transfer of energy, much more efficiently than a standard nut will, where it's basically just a friction contact. These provide much smoother operation, should be a lot less backlash. In testing, I actually have about 7/1000ths of an inch of backlash in the X-axis just by setting up my dial indicator here. I can set it up and then push one side of the X-axis and then pull it, zero it, pull it, and the needle actually moves 7/1000ths of an inch. So I've got that much give in one direction back and forth, which shows in the milling. Y-axis actually has between 9.5 and 10 thou. A lot more than I was expecting for that. Still waiting to hear back from Fusion CNC on how I could go about trying to get that upgrade of putting the oversized bearings for the steel balls in there. Haven't heard back from them. Went ahead and ordered some true 1/8 inch steel balls, which is what this is supposed to be. When I had them out to refill the X-axis, they measured out at 0.1231, which is undersized. So I ordered some 0.125s and some 9/64s, which are actually 0.14s. I'm really hoping those 9/64s will fit and fit snugly and take up pretty much all that backlash. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Other updates as far as this machine is concerned, coolant. I am making a coolant system for it. This is part of it, kind of following the Fogbuster DIY plans that you can see. The nozzle here, a little air hole in a much larger tube, then there's a block. It's basically a pressurized system where you pressurize the coolant and the airflow, and you can run it at a lower PSI, and you don't end up with fog. You end up with a kind of almost a spitting effect of coolant that comes out in the airstream. So you get rid of your chips, you provide some coolant. I got parts for that coming, I hope. But yeah, Amazon is great. You just gotta wait for the shipping. So pretty much covers the current update, and the last part of this is going to be different camera and unboxing and see what came in today. Alright, so today's mail call, got to actually meet the mailman, which is interesting. Got a couple packages, and so I figured this would be a good chance to do some unboxing stuff. Let's see what we got. These will be stuff for the CNC process. A little bigger than I was expecting, but it'll work. This is a brass heavy-duty needle valve. So this will be part of the fogless Mr. Coolant deal. Sweet. So that's nice. I like this large knob as opposed to the Lowe's and the Home Depot type little T-valve needle deal. Yeah, just don't like that. But that's nice. It's good heavy brass. Another piece of that system is the regulator, so that'll be able to go. Let's see, yeah, quarter inch pipe. Yep. So we'll keep that all together right there. Oop. And Amazon does not want you to forget that Prime Day is July 12th. Mark your calendars. What else do we have? This is LEDs. These are LEDs. That little strip of LED lights. I got everything else except this a while back. Power supply and all that. So here we go. So pretty sweet. So once the case, I can use these all over the place, but the intent with this particular little deal is going to be once I build the enclosure for the mill, I'll be using these to provide lights. So that come back over here. This, I was coming up with all sorts of ways to do the coolant enclosure. Went on Amazon, started looking around, found this little guy. Really good price on it. I mean, like $10 or something crazy. It's roughly a half a gallon capacity, pressure rated. It's just a water filter housing. I guess these are used pretty frequently for that. So in this particular case, it's going to work out fantastic because they also had the bracket for a couple bucks. So I'll have a bracket that goes here, like so. I can mount this right to the wall, pretty much, you know, and pressure rated, good. I've got several ideas on how I am going to make this work, and yes, they will work very well. So sweet. Pressure relief valve right here. What this is going to do, my intent is on the inside, I'm just going to run basically, just do a quick overview on this, how the system is going to work if you haven't seen it before. On the end, and there's one more piece that I haven't decided where it's going to go. I think it's going to go right in here, especially if the other piece that's in here works the way I want. But okay, so here's the housing. You run pressurized air in like 20-25 psi, 15 to 25 psi if I recall. This is your coolant reservoir, and it pressurizes the entire thing. And so from on one side here, I'm going to run a line that's actually going to have like a siphon tube that runs down into the bottom of the coolant chamber. So the pressure is going to push coolant back out the line, but there's also a secondary line that's just straight air pressure. So those two lines will run from here out to a fixture. The coolant itself runs into this needle valve, and you control the amount of flow with the needle valve. And then all of that, I think I looked it over. Oh, no. That all goes through a block and gets sprayed out this brass tube that's got a 0.35 diameter opening right here in the end, and sprays that out. If you haven't seen these before and you want to see it in action, Google Fog Buster. That's basically the marketed version. There's a lot of DIY versions out there, and I'm doing the DIY version, obviously. So that's this. There'll be more video footage on that later during the actual build process. But that's that. So I've got the housing, I've got a pressure regulator, brackets, valve, the hose for it, 1/4 inch, pressure rated. And that's one of the things about Amazon. I mean, this was like dirt cheap compared to trying to go into your big box store and pick up a small roll. This is 32 feet, 10 meters of it for I think 1/4 of the price of a 10-foot roll at Home Depot or someplace, or Lowe's, or wherever you go for that stuff. So Amazon, fantastic. I'm going to wait on that one. The other thing I've got in here are scattered, apparently falling all over the place. These are 1/4 inch pipe thread connectors, pressed to connect. So this hose, these are pretty sweet. I use macro fittings, they called them, in paintball for a lot of stuff, and these are basically the same thing, just not quite as high pressure rated. So, oh no, man down. This connection will go on this side over here, thread in, like so, and then I just take a piece of this tubing and you just push connect. You push it in, there's an O-ring in there that seals it, locks it in place, and as the pressure pushes it out, this plastic thing tab right here locks it in place. If you never need to pull it apart, you just pull back on that and it pulls it out. It's fantastic stuff. And it's a lot cheaper. Edge finder. First CNC crash, I destroyed my other edge finder, which was, I was not happy. But a Mitutoyo edge finder. Got that, fantastic. What else did we get in the goodie box? There's that, and this, that we are going to have to, universal mounting panel. So these are the 2-pin connector version of what I'm using for my motor connectors. So these will be the limit switch connectors for X, Y, and Z axis. So that's these guys, they're threaded. I got a spool of 22/2 shielded cable coming. Also dirt cheap compared to trying to find it locally off Amazon. But 2 pins, and they're indexed or polarized or whatever term you want to use for that. So they go in there and they'll lock down. So this side goes on the panel on the control box. This pin end goes from the cables on the limit switch. Be able to come in here and connect nicely. Those will look clean and neat. Alright, so I got, what, 5 of those? And I have part of controlling the coolant is, this is not that piece, this is a different piece. This little guy. This is a pneumatic valve with a little hand lever. So it will be able to control airflow. We got several valves in there. So you pull the lever, it moves a little piston back and forth, changes the airflow, through the different ports, depending on how you want to set it up. I'm actually going to be trying to build an automatic tool changer, or at least a rapid changer, similar to the Tormach tooling system type, where you've got the valve on the or the cylinder on the top, runs a pneumatic cylinder, presses down on the bolt that holds the R8 collet, allows you to drop tools back and forth. I'll need to make some tool holders, but this, with this little handle, is going to be the controller for that. So time to change a tool, pull down the lever, pull the tool out, put the other one in, let it go, and there you go. But the other one was this one right here. This is for the coolant system. And it's a lot bigger than I was expecting. Not a bad thing. Ooh, they gave me a sticker. No idea what that says. AirTac. So this is a 12 volt DC, 120 milliamp, electronically controlled valve that will go in line with this system here. And what I have not decided is where it's going to go in line. If I'm going to put this in line here at the, or I'm sorry, here between the regulator and the air system to the entire thing, or if it's going to go closer to the actual block. Do I want to control the air pressure? I think I want to control the air pressure here, otherwise I'm going to have to control coolant and air pressure. So yeah, anyway, things to decide, figure out, not a problem. So that's that on this.